Hi there, I'm Curtis Ricketts and welcome to the channel. And I want to talk with you and explain to you the reasons why I moved to France and the reasons behind it and what prompted my move from the US stroke UK to France as a solo individual. Okay, I'm a joint US and UK citizen, if you was wondering, and I was educated in England, hence the sexy accent. Okay, okay, ladies out there, and welcome to everyone from the US and Canada and anywhere else out there. Okay, everyone's welcome on this channel. Okay, you come and join me at the Jeep for a regular cup of tea or coffee. Okay, and welcome to the Jeep. And we will give you a Jeep tour and up and come visit here when you come and join us again. And we'll give you a little tour somewhere. We will find a nook and cranny for you. There's lots of interesting nook and crannies in this Jeep, okay, to explain. Okay, and the rent is fantastic, and that's why we're here. Okay, we got a good deal. Okay, now, I'm a little bit shy of the camera. I'm totally new to YouTube, okay? And I'm looking a mess right now, okay? And it's virtually 2 o'clock in the morning. We're doing this video to get it out there, okay? And I feel I'm a little bit ugly to be in front of the camera. So, you know, I don't want to frighten anyone because it's Halloween soon, in about 24 hours' time of doing this video, okay? And I don't want to freak any of you out, okay? So, and I like my privacy a little bit as well at the moment, okay? Not that I'm going to rule out not getting in front of the camera at all, but I will do in the future, okay? And you can judge for yourself, okay? So, without further ado, the first reason for me is the culture, okay? And the big number one is the cafe culture. You just cannot replicate that anywhere else in the world except being in France and doing it and experiencing yourself. When you're sitting in that wonderful location close to the Eiffel Tower, if you're in Paris, if you're in that little cute, quaint town, and you say hello to a few locals and they respond, you know, that's made my day, you know. So, and that is a big tradition in France, the cafe culture and the restaurant culture. Okay. So, and to include that as well, it's going to be the arts, the wonderful museums they have here, the music, the festivals, all that is culture. And I participate in culture without realizing it. Just watching French television here in the G, you know, I can't fully understand it. My language isn't that brilliant. We're still learning and we're on an obligation to learn if we're going to stay here long term. But I've learned which are the French popular TV shows to watch. And when I'm at the cafe, I can relate to others because I've watched the same program. I think, oh, what are they talking about? Oh, they're talking about this discussion program they saw on Channel 7, for instance, RTE. Oh, I watch RTE. Oh, yeah, I was watching that. Yeah, they're talking about that because I can second guess the title, what they're on about. Okay? And listen to music in the car when you drive, you just don't have to make that big mistake of watching Netflix like the other expats do. I've seen them. Oh my God. And I wonder why they're just not learning anything. So I've learned to speak better quality French I know that sounds really stupid right now, but I've just picked up that accent better just by watching the TV without fully understanding it and kind of second guessing in my brain what they're talking about, you know, and it seems to be working, you know, and reading books as well, funny enough, is a part of the culture, you know. I actually brought some French books, but I don't even understand, but I can look at the words and the text and try and guess what's going on, try and guess the storyline, you know, and you push yourself a bit, you can make some progress. Okay. Now, apart from French culture, and I'll come back to that in a minute because my other reasons do touch on that as well as we go through. Next big reason, probably for a lot of Americans, you know, if you're getting on in years, you know, if you're 60 plus, retirement age, you're thinking about these things, is healthcare. And what France offers you in relation to the carte vitale, you've probably seen that in other videos, people going on about the French healthcare system. It is good. It is good in Europe. It's not cost driven, and you don't have to be bankrupt, you know, to have an operation here. You know, there's no expensive deductibles. You know, you're paying your mutuelle, which is your insurance amount each month, but it's nowhere near as anything bad in the US, you know, and that takes the stress out of life. And that's what a lot of, you know, close to coming of age retirement people are thinking about, and people are retirement age already who are themselves, you know, very fit, you know, and in good health right now, you know, thinking about these things. But that shouldn't be your only reason for coming to France, is just that, because the carte vitale isn't guaranteed, you know. So we can talk about our carte vitale applications in future videos. There's a lot of content and we will go through that with you. And that's the beauty of our channel. We want to share, you know, the solo experience, this solo lifestyle, that you can do it on your own, apply on your own. Even if you're a woman who is about close to retirement, who's thinking about this doing on their own, take the plunge. Even if you're a solo traveler, even if you're a male, you know, you can do it. The next thing for me is food, you know. Even the cheapest brand foods here, you know, their own brand, their own supermarket labels here, are much better quality than anything else in the US, you know, or Canada, you know. There are things used in the US but wouldn't be used in food preparation or processing here in Europe, you know. Yeah. And I would say it's marginally cheaper at the moment, food, compared to the US, you know. The shutdown at the moment and things like that, you know, some folks are really feeling it back home in the US, you know. Not that we want to get political on this channel, and just to let you know that my home state is Florida, so we don't want to go there just yet. But, you know, we've got to keep it real on this show. And I've got in the habit now of eating less processed food, buying better quality food and not so much food. And if I show you the fridge, it's going to be, you know, just a quarter full, you know. We're just shopping every 2 or 3 days, you know, and buying better quality food and not so much food and not so much filling up the fridge with absolute garbage, you know, and soda and what have you, you know. I've hardly ever drunk any soda now since I've been here, you know. You just change your habits. And obviously, you know, you're going to have that food experience, that gastronomical food experience, where you're going to sit in a high class restaurant and give yourself that experience and pleasure please do, because I've experienced that in France now and gone to some really good restaurants, even locally to where I am. And you'd be amazed how even just a local village restaurant can really provide a good quality meal, like a lunchtime menu for like $20, you know, like 3 courses all in. And and it's the experience of the ambience of the place as well. And that's why you enjoy your food. And the food, because it's better quality, is going to give you better health. Sorry for the little bit indigestion there. I've been talking all day. Okay, I've got the tea at the sheet here right now. Okay, sorry it's not coffee. We will do a little coffee moment in future videos. Okay, I apologize. Okay, now the next one for me is lifestyle, and that, it all molds into the food aspect of cafe culture. There's just less stress. You can do your own timetable. You can get up when you want. Depending if you're on the long stay visitor visa, that's more for the retired people, who have no other commitments in their life now. They haven't got to work. Those of you who want to go on the entrepreneur visa, you're going to be self-employed, but don't miss out on that lifestyle. Don't fall back into that corporate rut, because that's what I left USA for, to get away from that corporate rut. Sitting in the traffic for 6 hours a day is, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, 6 hours a day. But unless you're in LA, you're going to come to a standstill. You'd be lucky to get to your appointments in LA. I don't know how bad it is these days, but back in the day, you had all the traffic lines. But I would say, I used to drive 45 miles each way to work in Florida each day, round trip, 90 miles, That's the norm in the US. Here, it's like, oh my God, you're driving 20 miles? Oh my God. Things are only an hour, 2 hours away. God, that's just a trip, But some people here think that's a long distance, but not for me. So don't fall into that corporate rut again. If you come on the entrepreneur visa, structure your day. Don't miss out on the lifestyle here, okay? Don't stick yourself in that home office for 8, 9 hours a day, because you're missing it. You're missing the lifestyle, okay? Now, the next thing is the climate. And this is important for some folks, especially who come from Texas, Nevada, California, the hot states, and Florida as well. Okay. But, with climate change, changing temperatures, seasons, floods, more increase in hurricanes that we've seen recently in Jamaica, the poor folks there, we really do pray for them, and the Bahamas as well, and all our neighbors down there, okay, in the Gulf of Mexico, no, or Gulf of America, okay, we pass on that one, okay, not that we're political on this channel, okay. Now, there are parts and regions in France that are quite temperate, but quite moderate. But if you're going towards the down south, like Montpellier, Nice, the Mediterranean coast, then you're going to get the heat there, and the summer as well, and mosquitoes as well. Some houses don't have screens on them, some do, you know. That's why it's important to look at the property there. Okay, and if you're in a more moderate climate, you're going to be up in the north part, coastal regions of France, like Normandy, obviously, going a bit west up to Calais, close to the Belgian border there. And you guys, I know, are smart, and you're looking at all the regions and the temperatures and the days of sunshine and things like that. We're close to the Bordeaux area, so we're like in a semi-moderate area. You know, we get the rain, the seasons, the change in temperature. You know, it's moderate, I would say. You know, I wouldn't want to go any more south than I am at the moment, you know, because the weather, and we've got used to it. And here in the Gite, it's nice. And I'm not complaining, okay? So the climate obviously is going to affect where initially you're going to stay and settle in France, where you're going to rent or buy, you know. So choose your area carefully. That's what I say. Okay, if you're trying to get away from those hot states, or you might want the sun still, then head down south, my friends. Okay. The next reason for me is society. You know, back in the US, you know, society is sense of entitlement these days, how people address you, you know, they just can't communicate, it just seems to be any manners anymore. Like back in the day, 30 years ago, people would talk to you, talk properly, you know. But in Europe, you know, saying the introductions, you know, the hellos, even when you walk into a cafe or a restaurant, these important social norms here, okay, and you'll get used to it, and you just become accustomed to you, okay. And society here, I would say, crime rate as well. You know, I'm not worried about someone breaking into the car. You know, we're up at 2 o'clock in the morning now. We've got the doors open at the back. You know, no one's going to disturb us. You know, no one's going to complain. You know, we're not worried about people coming up to the property. You know, I could walk out of here now, right down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning and feel absolutely safe. You know, it's difficult to do that in parts of the US, you know, but there is crime in France, don't get me wrong, but it depends in the area you're going to settle in, cities as well, you know, the petty crime like the pickpockets, you know, the more tourist area, you're going to get crime. But if you're in a nice little village, nice little town, you know, you're just not going to get that stress or hassle. Okay. The next thing for me, reason, was travel connections. You know, obviously you got the TGV here, you got plane links, you know, bus links here in very good urban centres, you know, in different regions of France. Now, if you want to travel in different parts of Europe, because you got the visa in the Schengen zone, you got permission to be here for a whole year plus, you know. So, depending if you want to stay longer, of course, and depending what visa you're on, okay, and you can just book yourself a cheap airline ticket with Ryanair, EasyJet, the other one, Wings, is a German brand, and you can fly to Italy, Spain, you know, other parts of Europe you never expected to visit or contemplating in visit, even like Bulgaria and things like that. You know, you can really plan a good travel of Europe because you're in the Schengen zone. You haven't got to worry about getting back, okay, because you're doing your own schedule, you got your own plans, You might even want to drive over to Italy or cross the border into Spain multiple times, depending where you're going to locate yourself. You know, there's a lot of contrast in Europe, lots of possibilities, and obviously you can get back to the UK. You can fly there, you can take a ferry there. You know, you could do a little mini tour of the UK, come back into France, touch on Belgium on the way back. You know, do wonderful shopping on the route. You know, that's what I do. You know, there's a whole lot of possibilities. And trains are good, the TGV links are good, you know, that connect up to the big cities, you know, and the bus routes and things are reasonable prices here as well. Okay. And seniors get a discount as well on age, so you may want to consider that. And you may not want to have a car here. And that's another consideration that Americans have. They do want to have a car. And you may want to choose your city that has those kind of links. So do your research a bit more, and you may want to combine travel with having a car. That's great. And if you support the environment, you know, there's things like Zipcar, where you can hire a car for a short while, for a few hours, just to do something, just to get a delivery of groceries or something like that. So there's ways of doing things and enjoying yourself. Okay? Now, the next thing for me was social events, because when I've been here and traveled to France before, depending on the time of year, you know, in the summer and things like that, in the autumn, you know, there's different themed events all through the year, you know, like Easter, Halloween, the summer, you know. But many local communes have their own unique little festivals, you know, and there's always something to do. Even if you're a solo traveler, you've come here by yourself, there's something to occupy you, you know. I'm always bump into a poster or two that may be up in a shop window, and I'm trying to figure it out. Where is it? Because the dresses are a bit mad here in France, you know. It just says, it might just say Stade and the name of the village, that stadium in the village. Well, what street is that on? You know, you end up getting in there, and you may have to use your skills and just go into a local cafe there and ask where things are. And that's what I have to do. And eventually you'll find the event, you know. There are many shows in the evenings and things like that, and a whole range of social events. Okay. There's one I went to recently where it was the local boar hunt. They put on a dinner and they had karaoke towards the end of the evening. And during the meeting, they had a 3-course meal being served. Okay. So, and the evening was like 19 euros per person, something like that. So inexpensive, and you got to try out your language skills, because I was the only English speaker there. You know, there was no other expats, because maybe they're too scared to go, they don't have the confidence, but the people welcomed me. It was a good night, and I did sing a song. Okay, it was an eye opener, but I got up there, I gave it my all, and I won't tell you my song choice just now, but I will in another video. I'll tell you the song choice. It was awful. People say you did not sing that. Okay, and part of social events, it gives you the chance to meet local people, more French people, to find out what's going on. Okay, and I've traveled quite a distance to social events. Like it could be first screening of a film in France, the cinema, a poetry reading, even just a recital in a church. You know, I've been to so many cultural things. You can be out every other day, weekend, doing something. There's always something organized. And a good place to go is the tourism office. Okay, they're all over the place in France, and they have like a little booklet inside that gives coming up events, you know, over like the different months, and you can see what's going on in that area. It's amazing. Sorry for the indigestion, folks, if you heard that. I really apologize. Okay. Now, the other thing is the cost of living. I know that's a hot topic right now for some folks, but you just feel that you're not being fleeced for the basic things, you know, like utility bills, house tax, you know, there's no real HOA fees here, you know. There's, okay, you may pay service charge on an apartment, but it's not excessive as it would be back in the US or Canada. I was talking to a Canadian friend of mine in Vancouver, and he was saying like the service charge was like $800 Canadian a month or something. And I was going, my God, you know. So you're gonna find those costs quite reasonable. In like mobile phone is about $20 a month I'm paying. Like all the data and calls. Even if I go over the package, I've never been charged on my account for some reason, but you know, but I know I've gone over the data allowance because I got 120 gigabytes for like 15 odd euros, so that's about $20 in the US. That's 3 calls, text. So I've never had an issue. Okay. But your utilities is next to nothing, you know, like 33 euros a month we paid. It's unbelievable. So out of pocket expenses will be better, you know. Gas is about, rough estimation, probably about $9 for a gallon, because don't forget to have litres here, and 1 litre here is €1 64 cents at the moment. It fluctuates a little bit, but there's about 4 litres in a gallon, I think. Don't quote me on that. So if you multiply that up, do the exchange rate, it's about $9 a gallon. So car insurance here is about, depending on the package, depending on, you know, claims, is about $400 to $600 US range for the whole year. Okay. So I think you're getting a pretty good deal. And say the food is a lot cheaper. You're not going to get fleeced for expensive travel, bus fare, you know, trains. It's all good, you know. But some things are dearer, you know. If you're going to buy paint and DIY things, really expensive things for your houses, then, you know, that's when you're going to feel the price difference, I think, you know, making those big purchases. But I always say I have more disposable income since I've been here on the amount of pension but I have. Okay? So that's been one plus for me. Okay? And main purpose here is to share my experience with you. And feel free to put anything in the comments you want asking. Email me, no problem at all. I'll get back to everyone I can. Okay? And if I have multiple requests for the same question, I may do a special video just on that. And I'm thinking Carte Vitale right now. My God, my experience of that, oh my God. You know, when you get watching those videos, oh, we just landed in France. Right. We were here for the first 3 months. Right. We applied for the Carte Vitale. We got it so quick and easy. Look, it's got our picture on it, and they're showing it, and they're just blagging it on the video. It also depends on your prefecture, the area of France you're in, the administration, and whether they just like you or not when you walk in the office. I just get that impression as well. So French administration moves slowly, but you just gotta go with it, be polite, smile, stay with the program. Okay? That's all you gotta do here. Now, in future videos and the channel, and the whole brief of the channel is, in future videos, I want to address about car hire. There are solutions, very good long-term practical solutions for car hire. I'll address that, okay? When people want to know how you do a pharmacy, what is it like there? How it compares to CVS. How can I get a prescription? How can I see a GP there? How can I get a dentist? Okay? How can I use a French appliance? Even like an oven, because ovens are different here. You got different hobs here. You got different washing machines. Obviously, it's not like back in the US where it's a top loader. You really haven't got a separate dryer here. In most properties, we're lucky at the Gîte here, but we got a good setup with the washing machine and the dryer, and we will show you that on our video tour, okay? And what to expect in the supermarket, okay? And we plan to do our shopping hauls, go through what we bought in the supermarket, how much it actually costs, so you can compare your living into the US and your potential move to France and compare prices and budgets, okay? And just how you do everyday living, okay? And a bit of driving as well. Sorry for the indigestion. I got the tea here, and I ate half a pack of biscuits before the video. I'm so sorry, guys. Oh my God, I just could not stop eating them. This is the danger when you have good food here. I'm telling you. Okay, I'm just munching away, munching. I couldn't stop. I've put them away now. Don't worry. Okay? Now, I hope you enjoyed the video. That was my personal reasons for coming to France. Okay? And I just feel better for it, But I want you to achieve your goals, okay? I, as a solo person, have done it, okay? We're here, we arrived, and I want you to come on the journey with me and explore the pitfalls, the highlights, everything with me, all right? And please comment and subscribe.